This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for July 19th, 10:30 a.m. The Atlantic Basin is very quiet right now. I'll get to the details in just a minute. But back in 1997, that was not the case, as Hurricane Danny was moving into the northern Gulf Coast and developing, dumping very large amounts of rain over Alabama, Dauphin Island, Mobile, Alabama. Some of these areas had up to 40 inches of rain from this very slow-moving hurricane. But nothing like that is going on right now in the Atlantic Basin. But what is going on is a lot of upper-level wind shear. Here's the SIMS map showing all the orange and yellow areas of very high westerly and northwesterly wind shear over the Atlantic Basin, which does not allow any tropical development at all. Blows the tops off the thunderstorms as they try to develop. So basically, the Atlantic Basin is very quiet and should remain that way for quite some time. Let's take a look at a quick satellite picture of our system out. We don't have any systems out there, but what we do have are big upper level lows. Let's point them out to you. Here's one in the Bahamas heading towards Florida, pushing some of that dry Saharan air into Florida. Been a lot of rain over the last couple days. Here's another upper level low in the southern Gulf of Mexico, another upper level low near Bermuda, and a bunch of dry air out in the open Atlantic. You put that all together and you get equals no development in the Atlantic Basin. So that's basically the pattern. None of the global models are really predicting anything for the next week or so. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about model history and how the models have performed over the years. And I think this is really rather interesting. Now keep in mind, this is going back to 1992 when Hurricane Andrew was out in the Atlantic and a very slow El Nino season. And the best performing model was the aviation model, which is the same as what's currently the GFS model. But again, there wasn't a lot of models to use here. But the 36-hour forecast was the best, and the 48-hour forecast. So they were leaning heavily on the aviation model as Hurricane Andrew was making it into South Florida. Did a pretty good job on that, by the way. Now back in 2000, we're going to skip up to 2000. Previous to 2000, it was really sporadic model data, and it gets more and more polluted, so to speak, with more and more models as the years go by. We can keep adding and making ensemble models and the whole 9 yards. But here we are at 2000. The GFDL was the best performer in 2000 at 36 hours and 72 hours. And let's skip to 2004. Now this was a very active hurricane season with a lot of, you had Charlie and Ivan, and we had a bunch of systems out in the Atlantic that were affected Florida. And in that year, the 36-hour best performer was the AEMN model, and the GFSO model was the version of the GFS was the best at 72 hours. Now I'll explain all this at the end, what this all means. I have it graphically shown overall the best performing models. Here's the description of the 2005 season. In both basins, the GUNA consensus model provided the best accurate track guidance. Among the individual track guidance models, the GFDL provided the best shorter track guidance in both basins. And at the longer ranges, the UK Met and the BAMM were the strong performers in the Atlantic. The ships and the D ship continued to lead the dynamical models for intensity. So overall, the GFDL and the GUNA models did the best in 2005. And here they are graphically located. But overall, if you look at 36 hours, the FSSE, which is the Florida State Super Ensemble model, outperformed all the other ones back in 2005. And then at 5 days, the GUNA model also outperformed the other models in the longer range forecasts. And here we are in 2006, the GFDL again, the darling at 36 hours, and the EMX model at 120 hours. Now that EMX is a version of the European model. That is the European model. Now when we go to 2007, the best was the EGRI at 36 hours, and the GFSI, again the GFS up there at 120 hours. Here we are in 2008. The best performer was the EMXI at 36, and the Florida State Super Ensemble model at 120 hours. And here we are in 2009, again the Florida State Super Ensemble model, and the CMC, the Canadian interpolated model, was the best long range. 2010, the EMXI at 36 hours, and the EGRI at 120 hours. And then finally in 2011, last year, the TVCA was the best at 36 hours, and the EMXI was the best at 5 days. So what does this all mean? Well, let's put it all in big graphical form for you here. I don't know if you can see that all real clearly, but what I did is take each year going back to 2004 and best models at 36 and 120 hours. And if you take all the models combined, the best overall